Hello and welcome to a randomised gaming video with a bit of a difference. Today we are having a preview look at the independent developed game Beep Boop Bop. And the reason for this preview look is that Randomised Gaming were contacted by the developers Psycho Robot Studio to ask if we would preview their game. We had a look at it and we decided to give it a quick preview. I just need to mention that regarding UK advertising law, this is a preview. They did pass us the content to review. However, you can download the content freely on their website if you like what you see here, and I've included links at the end of the video as the splash screen at the end shows you all the details to it, and I'll include them in the description below if you fancy a quick go. You can get it via their Facebook page if you're interested. But it's an independently developed game by Psycho Robot Studio. It's what I describe as a twin stick shooter, although I'm using the mouse and keyboards. And yes, if you're just reading that text there, you will notice there's a slight South Park reference. But as you see, this is the opening intro, it's just playing out. I should state now, this game is in alpha build, so there are it's slightly unfinished in an awful lot of places, because it is in alpha state. This is all subject to change, so anything you see here is not indicative of the final game. There may be a lot of changes, and please bear that in mind when taking this opinion if you're looking at this video at a later date. This is the latest build as of the time of recording this video, which is the 21st of October 2015, but there may well be a later build. If you're watching this video after it's released, consider this as a beta look, as a prototype look. So I'm just going to have a quick gander at the game. There's only a few options at the minute. You've got a quick brief tutorial and start the main game. Now here we go, level 1, the cargo bay. Yeah, any changes may improve. With the final build, I should state directly. But what I was actually quite impressed with, I should state I'm Random Gamer Riven actually doing this little preview, but I was actually impressed by how well this actually controlled. It is a twin stick shooter, although I was using the mouse. It is very fluid and very fast, and it controls really well, which I was actually quite surprised for an alpha state how well it controlled, which is always a good sign because I previously worked in actual games development. I have seen alpha states before, quite major games where the alpha states were in very poor shape, and this is actually quite impressive. It's actually quite a nice. Now, some of the VFX, as you'll see there, the explosions, they don't quite look finished and finalised. But at the minute, I'm just going around shooting everything. The other thing I should say, at the minute, you get to the boss in this demo by scoring 1,000 points. I've been told by the studio that in the later version you'll have sub-objectives you have to complete before you get to the next stage and activate the boss, but at the minute it's just 1,000 points. You can also destroy the spawners there, as you see the spawn huts, a bit like Gauntlet, but at the minute they don't give you much in the way of extras. I think in fact they just temporarily get destroyed if you blow them up. As you can see, it's a nice shooter. Very quick, you can move around very quickly, flick it back and forth. My initial observations are pretty impressive. It plays very smoothly, it plays very fast, which is always what you want with these type of games. One thing I did notice fairly early on, the enemies, there's not much variety in how the enemies attack at this point. I assume they're going to change up. As you see, you currently have the spin wheel that sort of drives at you the fastest. You have that slow turning thing on this stage with like the spike in the centre. I kind of thought it might shoot the spike off at you or something, but it doesn't. Perhaps there's no enemies that shoot you at the minute, perhaps that's going to change in later, but and the spin blade things that come after you. Again, I felt possibly they should sort of do something like sit still, target you and then charge you, because you have the one roll the enemy. It felt like there needs to be, each of the enemies needs to have a different attack, and at this point they all very much just drive into you. But it is actually, I was quite surprised how good fun it is. Considering this is only green light stage, this is actually a very impressive build, and the collision is very tight as well. I was really impressed with how easy it is to shoot and hit the enemies. Now, see, a few of the enemies, their AI needs a bit of tweaking, and the collision with your own vehicle, there's no sort of, when you take a hit, it doesn't make it that clear. You get a little sound effect, but it doesn't feel like there's no inertia, you don't get bumped back or anything. Again, I should state this is only an alpha stage, but yeah, I was quite enjoying my time doing this. So there's 3 different weapons at the minute. You can actually unlock weapons as you go further in. I've got the flamethrower there. The other one's the sort of laser ray gun. The 2 and 3 is the smart rockets that you'll see me devastate the boss, and they basically blow up anything on screen when you use one. So you get to 1,000 points and out pops a little intro with the first boss. It's a relatively easy gun turret. I just literally flew around in a circular motion. Actually, one thing I will say is the difficulty balance is quite nice. This is quite a nice opening stage. I've played quite a lot of games in the past where the difficulty balance when you first play it is just ridiculously hard. Certainly with a lot of fan-made games, you often find the opening difficulty just really, really hard. This is actually quite a nice balanced difficulty. It's a fairly easy level to clear, which sets you in nicely, and it gives you a good feel for the game ahead. You should see there I'm using sort of blue ray laser, which is very effective for this boss. Just using its circular motion. The levels do get more difficult as they go on. You see here I'm just avoiding it, just keep moving around circle. It shoots me and I just keep moving around. It's not that hard a fight. The only thing I did notice, I did feel that when the boss pops up, I felt it would be nice if they got rid of the existing troops and each boss had their own unique style of troop. Just, if the boss feels a little bit underwhelming if he's solely relying on the existing troops in a stage. I much prefer it when it's just you and the boss, or the boss has his own unique troops. So there's the first boss down. It's not a hard fight, you just tactically aim for it. Now the other fact is, after every mission you get a power up, which I quite like, and that will change how you play with your ship. This one actually gives me 2 guns, so straight off the bat I only had 1 gun before, and you'll now see I have 2 guns. As you see, the stage has changed as well, which is really nice. It's always nice to see that in a game. One thing I did notice, these 4-armed robots, I felt they should have sort of grabbed you and held onto you to try and slow you down. A lot of the enemies at the minute are just hitting you, and I feel some of them should have slightly different penalties. So rather than just... So the sort of wheel rider ones, I think they're called skid marks or something. They just sort of drive you. But these 4-armed ones I felt should sort of like grab onto you to stop you from moving. You have to shoot them off, making you vulnerable. But you can see this is the cargo area. You can also, you'll see those nice, quite menacing mechanical hands. They do attack you, so you have to shoot them as well. Although they are a bit tricky to hit, as you've not got a large hit area on them. And that's a lot of my shots are missing. You have to be quite tactical with how you shoot them. But they do a lot of damage if you get close to them. And at the minute they're only on this level, so it's nice to get... There's one thing that always starts well the game, is when you have after you finish the first level, when you play the second level, there's a lot of differences in what enemies you're fighting, etc. That's always a really good sign. Some games used to get where level 1 was almost identical to level 2. Other games, level 1 is very different to level 2, and that's obviously what the guys and girls, I should say, Psycho Robot Studios are planning. And it's actually very nice, because it changes up how you play, and it gives you a lot of very refreshing look. Because each stage is very different, and you have to play slightly differently. So this one, of course, you have to be a bit more manoeuvrable. The first stage you could stay around, sit still a lot more, but because you've got these mechanical arms, you have to be a bit more manoeuvrable. You can't sit still anywhere near them. There's also one of the power-ups you'll see on the ground is a big explosive bomb that's quite helpful to grab that. There's a shield, there's also one that speeds you up as well, which is very handy. Now for an indie game I was quite impressed. This is actually pretty good graphically looking. I've got this set to the maximum graphic standards, by the way. So just blowing up the hand of one of them. So again, the objective at the minute is to score 1,000 points, but in the actual final release game there will be different objectives to complete each mission before you fight the boss, which actually sounds quite interesting. And as you can see there, the very quick movements. You can shoot left, right very quickly, which is really, really good. I was surprised how well it controlled with the mouse. I really was. It really played really well. In fact, there's quite a few retail twin-stick shooter games that probably play a lot worse than this. So gameplay style, as you've probably seen it, my best description is, from a retro point of view, Smash TV crossed with Viewpoint, the isometric shooter. It actually works quite well. For a more modern style game, I'd say something like Burn Zombie Burn on the PS3 on PSN. So that's the intro for the second boss. Now, I don't know whether they're going to change it. At the minute you only need to blow up, you can concentrate on one arm. You see there's the 4 buzzsaw arms, and you just literally sit and shoot them. I did think the buzzsaw arms needed to chase you more or shoot you, because at this point you could sort of stand and shoot them without doing anything else. And I don't know whether they'll be changing it so that when you blow one up, you'll still have to destroy the other 3. At the minute you can just concentrate on one. But you see there I'm using the rockets, which are really, really handy. In fact, those rockets really helped me out on the next stage. You see this is the chopper boss. It's quite nice to sort of move these mechanical arms. I'm just keeping my distance because getting close, that thing does an awful lot of damage, although I did get a bit too close to a few of the other mechanical arms. There's the flamethrower. Actually quite nice effects on the flamethrower. The VFX for a few of the weapons didn't look complete, but the flamethrower does look almost final from what I can see. It's a close range weapon, so although it does a lot of damage, it wasn't that a good idea on that boss. I got bumped off there. Unfortunately, still got a few spare lives. So you start off with a shield, which is always nice to see. You get a brief moment of vulnerability after you die. That's always good games design there. So you can see I'm just sort of spinning around and going. I'm trying to basically almost kite some of the enemies around at this point, trying to go to whichever arm I'm attacking and move away from the enemy so they have to follow me and I can attack another arm. So there's the second boss down, and that is Chops down. Now this is the third stage, and this is the hardest stage. Incidentally, you now notice I actually have a choice of power-ups. I picked the Ricket Sword chip the first time around, that just fired a straight blade, and this time around I picked the knockback chip. I'd already played this prior, so this is the testing room. Now again, I'm shooting the spawners, although as I said, not much. They don't do that much. Now these enemies are a bit like a swordfish, but they're actually quite tricky because they do, after a while, they do come diving at you. These roller things, I mean, you might notice they're very static. I assume later on their sort of fronts will be grappling and moving up and down, but at the minute they're just sort of rolling back. But those swordfish really do, they home onto you and then try and strike you, so they're quite nasty enemies. They sort of dive to you. In fact, I found them very tricky because they took quite a lot of shots to take down and you could easily get swarmed by them. In fact, I think they probably take a tad too much damage at this point because they're quite a fast enemy, so you have to respond quickly, otherwise you get this scenario where, as you can see, I'm getting absolutely hammered by them. Again, they do come quick. You'll see them, they just come flying straight at you. But certainly they provide a more challenge than a lot of the other enemies you've seen previously. And there's also these generators here that put up shields that slow you down or damage you. And you see that one damaged me and went in there, bang. One thing also, the enemies at this stage are quite a good mix. You've got the slow moving enemies if you sit too long, but the faster enemies, the swordfish type robot flying things, really are quite nasty. Especially when we've got a few of them, so there's some sort of shield generators. They're sort of damaging you or slowing you. I'm just taking them out. So I'm aiming for the 1000. This boss is actually quite tricky and has a huge flamethrower arc as well. But it's what I played with. It's actually very good fun, and I do recommend you actually nip over to Psycho Robot Studio, and if you fancy a quick go on, if this looks like it's going to be your cup of tea, if you like shooters, I highly recommend you have a quick go. I mean, it's free to download and it's available on their Facebook page if you want to look at this game. I was quite enjoying it by the end. Now I know it's got a long way to go before it's finished, but it's shaping up quite nicely to be quite a nice little independent developed game. Again, you see the swordfish enemies, they really are quite troublesome. They're just right. The knockback attack I used right at the end there, you see it emits some sort of cloud. I wasn't quite sure whether that was final when I was testing. It looked like it was a little bit incomplete. As you notice there, like in this intro, you've got the black ceiling. If that was my QA days, I would be going bug, C-class bug. Because you see I'm using the rockets there. They absolutely devastate this boss and they devastate all the enemies in close. Yeah, see, it took me out of its flamethrowers pretty swiftly there along with that swordfish enemy. But yeah, the rockets are... In fact, when I tried to defeat this boss via shooting it, I actually got defeated the first time. But as you see there... Now, that's the one thing I don't like, is the fact the enemies will just sort of collide with you and don't, like, knock you back or anything. There does need to be some form of sort of knockback or spin attack. So there's a bonus power up here But this is actually the end of the demo. And again, left screen there, I would be screaming bug bug as you're missing some of the graphical things. But as you can see, that's the end of the demo. Hope you like this video. I hope you enjoy it. I've included there on the left side all the links for sort of their Facebook account if you want to in the end of this demo. So I'm also going to include them in the bottom of in the description text of this YouTube video. But I do recommend you head over to Psycho Robot Studio and actually have a look at this demo if you fancy playing a nice little twin stick shooter. It's available on Linux, Mac and PC at the minute.